It's whiskey time. Greetings, whiskey folk, and welcome back to Drinking Out Loud. My name is Adam Bradshaw, and I've not been around for a little while, have I? Yeah, sorry if you missed me. It's we took a little bit of a break from uploading videos to YouTube. Not intentional, though. What actually happened is the microphone failed, and I just had a bunch of videos that I recorded with either no sound or sound, but it sounded like someone was dialing up the internet in the background the entire time. So yeah, sorry about that. I did consider sort of dubbing over sound over the top of the video, but I couldn't really. I'm not very good at lip reading, so I couldn't remember what I said, and trying to match that, it would have been a mess. It wouldn't have worked. So I figured no video is probably better than really, really, really rubbish video. But glad to be back, and hopefully you didn't miss me too much. We are back just in time, though, for the SMWS's 130th Canadian Outturn. Yes, flavour escapism is the theme of the month. Spark your imagination and let our new summer cask collection prepare your senses for takeoff on a thrilling flavour adventure. Yeah, it is very much summer, and, you know, as such, I know our members are all over the place right now. Maybe you're on holiday somewhere. I know some of our members are right now in Mexico, and very, very much jealous of some of the shots they've taken and sent me of some of the mezcals they've found over there. Some really interesting stuff. I know we've got people who are either just coming back from Scotland or just about to leave for Scotland. I don't know if there's anyone in Scotland right now. Maybe there is. But yeah, the floodgates have opened. Everyone's everywhere right now. It's summer. Everyone's incredibly busy. But thankfully, we do still have time in our month for the SMWS Outturn. At the time of recording, this is Wednesday night before the Thursday evening Outturn preview tasting, and of course this is going out to the world on Friday, the first Friday of August. So that'd be the 5th at 10 a.m. And if this video is available, that means that all of the whiskies from today's Outturn are already up at strathliquor.com/SMWS. And if you're worried about missing out on something that is, we do have a couple of lower allocation ones where we only got one case this month. So if you are worried about missing out, pause the video right here, nip over to strathliquor.com/SMWS and see what's available. Because yeah, you might be you might be intrigued and excited by some of the bottles. One of them, though, is going to a lottery, so you don't have to worry too much about getting your entry in for that, because that will be available. The lottery will be up for at least 3 days, I think, until the end of the weekend. I think we're going to draw on sort of midday Monday. I'm making that up now. We're going to draw midday Monday for the lottery. I'll try and remember that by the time I get to the relevant whiskey. But yes, head over to the website right now. They're all available. There's only a couple of bottles of some of them. Sorry about that. But stick with me on this video to learn all about the whiskies and get my first impressions. I haven't tried any of these yet, and there's some of them I'm particularly looking forward to. But we are starting off with, what's number 1 today? Refill Thrill. Classic refill wood flavour, we thought. Straight away we noted charming aromas of canvas satchel, pencil cases, bergamot, lanolin, and plain buttered toast. Water brought out pressed flowers, samphire, young calvados, and sandalwood with a kiss of pear cider. The palate opened with a deft lightness at first, but gradually became warmer, spicier, and showing notes of white pepper, stone fruits, cooking oils, and soft dessert wines. With water, we got a soft waxiness, snap twigs, turmeric, light fudge and vanilla tablet notes. Then a left field hit of Bombay Mix. Bombay Mix, you say? Wow, all kinds of British references in this one. What are we dealing with? Well, it is cask number 91.32. They managed to get 183 bottles out of a second fill ex-bourbon barrel. It was distilled in the Speyside region on the 2nd of April 2009 and aged in the second fill ex-bourbon barrel for 12 years. Came out at 56.4% ABV. And yeah, very cool looking whiskey. I feel like I say very cool looking whiskey for every whiskey, but in fairness, I'm very excited about any whiskey I haven't tried before, so yeah, if you ever think I don't mean it when I say this whiskey looks very cool, I absolutely do. I just think all whiskey looks really cool. Anyway, on paper, this sounds really interesting. Let's crack it open. Bombay Mix is a wonderful sort of British Indian infusion sort of thing. I don't think it actually comes from Bombay. I think like most Indian food that you get in the UK, it was actually created by Indian immigrants who moved over to the UK and sort of created an entire menu based on sort of the skills and the spices from that they learned and grew up with cooking over in India, but tailored it a bit more to a British palate. So Bombay Mix usually consists of like dried noodles and like dried peas and nuts and lentils. I think I'm getting all that right. Blimey, it's been like a good 10 years since I had Bombay Mix. I used to love this stuff. But then it's like salted and got like curry sort of powder through it as well. Really delicious snack. Looking forward to seeing if I'm reintroduced to it through this whiskey. That could be quite fun. There's something else in there I felt like I should probably explain. What was it? Let's have a look. Oh yeah, I was going to say the pear cider thing. So one of the things I very much enjoy about visiting the UK, which I, weirdly enough, have only managed to do twice since I left. I left like 15 years ago, so that's kind of weird. But I just got back, of course. Some of you might know that I visited the UK in late June, early July. Hence I missed the Outturn there. Was it late June, early July? No, it was late May, early June. God, I've been back... Wow, I've been back almost 2 months. All right, it's time to go again. Anyway, the local pub to where my parents now live, which is not where I grew up, but it's quite close. It's a pub at the bottom of the hill in a town called Duckmanton, and it's called the Arkwright Arms, named after Richard Arkwright, who actually designed several of the cotton mills throughout the country, several of which in Scotland are now distilleries, including Deanston. It's a weird tangent, I know. Anyway, of course, being an English pub, it has a nickname. There's 2 pubs in Duckmanton, one at the top of the hill, Top Duck, one at the bottom of the hill, Bottom Duck. Anyway, they are a cider specialist of a place. They always have a bunch of really interesting, cool ciders. And one of the things that I think I knew this, but I think I might have known this before, but I had forgotten the difference between a pear cider and a Perrier. Yeah, because they mentioned pear cider in this, and I'm wondering if they mean pear cider, if they mean a Perrier, because a Perrier is like cider but made with pears instead of apples, whereas a pear cider is made with apples but then flavoured with pears. Yeah, the more you know. No, it smells like pear cider. It doesn't smell like a Perrier. It smells like Kopparberg pear cider, which I think is a Swedish brand of cider. It's quite sweet. Oh dear, I've got whiskey on my nice board. Oh well. Oh, yeah, that actually really does smell bizarrely like a Swedish pear cider. Interesting. Oh, it's feisty. It's 56.4 and it does not hide that. It is full strength. Nice and punchy. I like that. So that's one of the things that's really interesting. And I'm growing to love refill casks. And I know this is something Andrew Ferguson talked about a lot in the last few years. The idea that why would you want a overly active cask in a distillate that is really unique and interesting and flavorful, right? And I used to think, yeah, I mean, refill casks are great, but you need to put it in there for, at least 18 years or something to get the most out of the whiskey. Turns out that's rubbish. It completely depends on the distillery. Some distilleries don't really work well with refill casks in a shorter time period. Other distilleries that have a particularly pleasant tasting spirit after a dozen years work well. And that's what we've got here. It's like, this is a dozen years old, and it's from a second fill bourbon barrel, so a refill. And that's great. It's nice. It's got a decent amount of wood, but the wood is sort of integrated better with the spirit. And I find it interesting that right from the get-go, they talk about things like pencil cases and sandalwood. They're more flavors I would generally find from like virgin oak finishes or something along those lines. It's not something I would expect from a refill cask. And I don't really get that. I don't think this is particularly heavy in the wood flavors. They're there, but I think the more sort of tropical fruit and oily flavors are really what's coming through. And they don't really talk about tropical fruit here, but on the nose for me, I'm getting a lot of mangoes and pineapples and things along those lines. Stone fruit. I guess a mango is a stone fruit. That's lovely. Oh, I think I know what they're getting with the Bombay mix. And it's particularly the dried noodle part of the Bombay mix, my favourite bit. I used to pick those out when my dad had a big box of Bombay mix. Yeah, that's interesting. Not so much the curry powder, but like salty fried dried noodles, like crispy, crunchy noodles. Interesting, very interesting. For science, I shall add a little bit of water and tell you a little bit about the distillery. So we know that this is Distillery 91. This is cask 32, the 32nd from the 91st distillery. But what distillery is that? Well, it's a Duffton. And this was the 6th distillery built in the town of Duffton, originally called Duffton of Glenlivet. And interestingly, and this is something I just learned, Duffton was originally called Balvenie, which is, of course, one of the other distilleries in Duffton. And I learned that from this absolutely fantastic book, which I'm rereading again right now, Whiskipedia. Now, Whiskipedia is by one of the foremost experts in the world on the history, the tradition, the manufacturing, and the enjoyment of Scotch whisky, Charles MacLean. You might have seen him in what's that movie called? The Angel's Share. And if you haven't seen The Angel's Share, absolutely brilliant movie. I would describe it as the same sort of cheeky character as the Full Monty, but instead of stripping, they discover that they're really good at tasting whiskey. Very funny movie. Charles MacLean's in there, but he's also a big friend of the SMWS. He's done lots of tasting notes. We've had like Charles's Picks bottles with a little stamp on, I think, in the past as well. Yeah, absolute wonderful writer. Anything you ever see written by Charles MacLean, absolutely thoroughly recommend. This is a fantastic book, and all of today's trivia is actually from this book, which is super cool. All right. This whiskey is already available, but in case you're waiting to hear the price, I don't know why I still, even though I'm not launching this whiskey right now, it's already on the website. For some reason, I always leave the price to the end. I don't know why I do that, and maybe I should stop doing that. Maybe I will. Maybe I'll tell you the price at the beginning. Anyway, it is $201.65. $201.65, available while stocks last at strathliquor.com/SMWS, and of course at our 3 partner stores across Canada. Kensington Wine Market over in Calgary, we've got Keg and Cork in Edmonton, and Legacy in Vancouver, who had their first Outturn tasting back physically in person since the beginning of the pandemic last month. So congratulations to everyone at Legacy, and congratulations to everyone in Vancouver who finally managed to get back together as a club. I know I've heard it was a huge success from several of the people I know who went to it. So yeah, congratulations guys. Congratulations Daryl as well. Yeah, it's great to have the community able to all meet up together again. You know, one day we should have like a big SMWS festival somewhere where we just try and get all of the members from all 4 stores together in one place. I mean, it's kind of hard because maybe we'd have to have 2, a BC one and an Alberta one, and we'd like live stream between it or something. But that'd be cool. Maybe Kelly could do the Alberta one and Rob could come over and do the BC one. Anyway, just a thought. It'd be really nice to have like a Canadian SMWS gathering event, I think is what I'm really getting at. I think the gathering event is... I'm actually considering timing my next trip to the UK around when the SMWS gathering is happening, because I kind of want to go. Anyway, delightful whiskey. A wonderful start to the 6 new whiskies for August. And we're moving on now to Hits the Sweet Spot. Let's see if it does. The sweet scent of fresh grass and flowers in a summer meadow as we spread out our picnic blanket enjoying the coconut lime shortbread cookies and butterscotch ice cream in a cone. On the palate we detected salted caramel, Belgian waffles and carrot cake before sipping a Moscato Sangria. A deliciously sweet and refreshing mixture of Moscato wine, fresh berries, oranges, raspberry liqueur topped with sparkling water. I want that now. I need to figure out a cocktail bar that's likely to have Moscato wine on the menu and go and request that. I'm thinking Clive's. Clive's is probably a good bet. All right. Water added a floral dimension, fresh cut, pressed, but also flowering houseplants, while to taste sweet and mellow hibiscus iced tea, rosewater, as well as maple syrup on pancakes and dusted lemon bonbons. Wonderful. Okay. Very much looking forward to this. I mean, that's the first time I've actually read the tasting notes. They sound great. They sound... But I knew they were going to sound great because this is actually a sister cask to one of my favourite whiskies that we still actually... I think we still have some in stock. Don't quote me on that, but worth a check if you happen to be on the website right now. This is a sister cask to the Expert Generalist, and that was a beautiful whiskey. So this is cask 9.229, Outturn, one of 166 bottles that they got from a first fill ex-bourbon barrel, 17 years age. Quite different to whiskey number 1. So that was a second fill at 12 years old. This is a first fill at 17. So we're going to get a very different set of flavours here, I think. 55 ABV is what it came out at. It was distilled on the 11th of September 2003, of course, in the Speyside region. Okay. I'm collecting the little things today. Oh, I'll make a little pile. All right. Beautiful. Right away on the nose. Weirdly more delicate than the first one. Which is interesting, right? Because like first fill, you'd think it'd be a little bit more powerful in the flavour. But no, apparently not. Apparently not. Okay. Sweet grass. Yeah, I am getting a sort of sweet grass kind of thing. It's almost... It reminds me of... What is that? Oh, wow. It's sweet and grassy, and it instantly reminds me of something, and I cannot put my finger on it. Matcha latte. Reminds me of a matcha latte on the nose. Very, very nice. With the kind of matcha that has the toasted rice in it as well. Can't remember the name right now, but I'm sure Big Tree, if you're in the comments section, I'm sure you could let me know, couldn't you? Although I know actually Big Tree is coming to the Outturn tasting, so he might not actually watch the video. So I might have to poke him in person. Oh, personal interaction. Weird. Actually, just comments on the internet. That's all life should be. Ah, lovely. Okay, Yeah, I'm getting the butterscotch now. Ooh. I'm not getting the raspberry liqueur, but everything else in that cocktail that they listed, it sounds spot on. In fact, actually, I'm not getting fresh oranges either. I don't know if they mean fresh oranges, but I'm getting like triple sec. Like Moscato wine, fresh berries. I would swap out the oranges and raspberry liqueur for triple sec and do that with sparkling water. I think that is what this whiskey inspires me to do. And I think at the end of the day, I'll probably make that cocktail, think, oh, that was nice, and then remember that this whiskey was better. Tends to be the case. I've got to be honest. I enjoy cocktails when I'm given them, but I generally don't order them for myself because I'm usually disappointed in the fact that it doesn't taste as good as just the spirit did on its own. And I mean, no disrespect to cocktail artists, mixologists. You're very talented at what you do. And I do enjoy them. I really, really do. But 9 times out of 10, I prefer, if it's a whiskey cocktail, I prefer just to have the whiskey. I've got to be honest. But that's just me. I know that I am probably in the minority there. It's a very, very harmonious whiskey. Everything's coming together perfectly. It feels curated. It feels refined. As it probably should for a 17-year-old. All right. Adding the water, seeing if much changes. Yes. Yes, it does. It's a little sweeter now on the nose. They suggest maple syrup after water. And yeah, maybe maple. Maybe agave syrup, actually. Which is what I have in my matcha lattes now. So, no, there we go. It's all coming together. All these flavours that work well together in other places are found in this one glass. Like I said, very harmonious. Yeah, beautiful, lovely whiskey. And this whiskey is from, you might already know this because it's the sister cask to the Expert Generalist and the clue's in the name. This is from, of course, Glen Grant. Named after, well, I don't think it's actually named after General Grant, but I think it's named after the Grant family. I think he was just one of the people. Anyway, this is a Glen Grant. And thanks to Charles MacLean, I can tell you this wonderful fact that I knew kind of before I read it in this book, but this book sort of filled in some of the details. This became the first single malt to take off in the export market. It actually came out as a 5-year-old designed to challenge the grappa market in Italy, which I think is pretty cool. I knew that they made a particularly young one. I didn't know that it was particularly 5, but I didn't know that it was because of the grappa, and that makes a lot of sense. If you're a country that's used to drinking grappa, then you probably want a feistier, younger flavour in your whiskey. That's pretty cool. So much so is it popular in Italy that when this book was published back in 2010, they were already selling 380,000 cases per year. That's over 2 million bottles, and I'm sure it's probably gone up from then. Very impressive stuff. This 17 years aged Glen Grant is available right now for $263.39 and is killer. All right, whiskey number 3 coming right up is Candy Floss on a Pine Twig. Malted grain and cereal notes joined green apples, peaches and apricots, while pineapple and coconut arrived with custard and linseed oil. Plenty of ginger and cayenne pepper introduced the palate before caramel sauce, pink candy floss and lavender softened the way for charred wood and coconut. When adding water, it was easy to over-dilute, but with just the right amount we discovered nut butter on toasted rye bread, vanilla ice cream in a cone and green wood with hints of rhubarb. Well-managed heat on the palate allowed tinned fruit salad and soft fudge to join pink wafer biscuits and licorice on a bed of leafy herbs and pine bark. I feel weird I accidentally said herbs instead of herbs, which isn't even how it's said here. I don't know how or why I did that. I think I just panicked when I saw the word. Anyway, very excited about this whiskey. And I say that legitimately. I absolutely love the SMWS releases from G15. This is G15.13, so yes, this is a grain whiskey, not a single malt. They got an outturn of 190 bottles, coming out at 58.5% ABV from a second fill ex-bourbon barrel that was rested for 11 years. It was distilled in the Highlands region on the 20th of April, 2010, and is a single grain Scotch whiskey. And just to like really prove that this is how excited I am, and I actually do love G15s. This all started with a now legendary in my mind SMWS release from gotta be 3 or 4 years ago now called Thermonuclear Banana. That was one of these. An absolutely incredible whiskey that got me in love with this. I want to say this distillery, but specifically this style of whiskey from this distillery, which might be a bit of a giveaway if you don't know what the code is. But I actually... Ooh. There it is. When I visited the vaults 2 months ago now, I picked up one bottle of whiskey for myself from the vaults and another one for Kristen. She picked up a Ruidmore, the peated Glenturret. I picked up a G15, G15.16. Funnily enough, however, this G15 is peated, a peated grain whiskey. Yeah, hopefully we'll get some of this in Canada at some point, but I can tell you it is absolutely beautiful. I'll just put this down here. I might have a little dram later as a side-by-side with the unpeated one. But yeah, let's crack into it, shall we? Oh, in case you're wondering what candy floss is, it's called cotton candy over here. And if you're in Australia, it's called fairy floss. I'm hoping somewhere in the world it's called fairy candy, but alas, I have not found that place yet. Wonderful. Smells inviting. Interesting. It's so different from what I was expecting. I swear this has a little bit of smoke on it, almost bacony. The bacon fat. It smells almost like bacon fat, like spread on toast. Maybe not bacon fat, maybe more like what's that stuff you used to get from the bakers back when I lived back in Yorkshire? Dripping, beef dripping. It was my sister's vegetarian, and that was the only meat product she would ever eat because she really liked it. And basically, she would say, "Well, the cow's not killed just for its dripping; it's a byproduct, you know. And no extra cow has been killed because I'm eating this dripping." Which, you know, fair play. That is some solid logic. Interesting, very interesting. All right, what should I be looking for here? Ginger? Oh yeah, okay, cool. Yeah, it's all opening up now. Pineapple, ginger. Coconut oil. Not coconut cream, coconut oil. Interesting. Candy floss. I don't know why candy floss doesn't just taste like sugar. It's basically just sugar that's been spun, right? Something in that process gives it an utterly unique flavour. Oh, charred wood. Yeah. I think that's the sort of smokiness I was getting and the fattiness. It's like getting a nice sort of cedar plank. No, maybe not cedar. I was thinking of cedar planks because I'm used to those being charred because of the whole, cedar plank salmon on a barbecue thing. But yeah, it's like a nice piece of wood that's been oiled with bacon fat and that's set on fire. Oh, that's bloody lovely. Okay, so they said it's very easy to overdilute, so I'm going to be very, very careful with adding a drop of water here. Although I am in the very envious position of if I do overwater it, I can just add some more whiskey. That's the perfect fix. So 2, 3 tiny little drops. It's quite viscous, interestingly. It is 58.5. Oh. It's cakey now. It tastes like treacle sponge pudding with the custard. And this might just be because I always look for this flavour now since the thermonuclear banana incident, but yeah, touch of banana. It's there, I think. I hope it's not just psychosomatic. I think it's there. Anyway, G15.13. Now, that is one of many codes assigned to the same distillery. That distillery is Loch Lomond, and this specific code is for Ross Dew, which is Loch Lomond's sort of coffee malt, I guess. A term made famous by Nika. But yeah, it's 100% malted barley, but because it's done in a continuous still, not a pot still, it can't be called a single malt by Scottish SWA rules. So yeah, it's a grain, and I don't care. It's delicious. I mean, I like grain whiskey. This kind of bridges the gap a little bit between malt and grain flavour profile-wise. I like malt, I like grain, and I like hybrid. This is good. This is good. It's the best of both worlds. So, a little bit of trivia, thanks to Charles MacLean. This is something I already knew, and this is something I've said on this channel several times. Captain Haddock's favourite whiskey from the Tintin comics. And I've also said that because the Tintin comics were made before this distillery was founded, it was actually a fictional whiskey at that point that suddenly sprung to life. I've got some dates attached to that. Tintin was actually written between 1929 and 1958, and of course Loch Lomond famously became an active distillery in the same year that England won the World Cup for the first and only time, 1966. Hey, maybe this year's our year, guys. The English women's team just won the Euros, I think it was. So you know we've got to catch up. Anyway. So yeah, that is true. But one thing I didn't know, that I just learned from this book, from Charles MacLean, is that they actually painted a tanker at the distillery in honour of those Tintin comics, using the same style as the books, the fictional whiskey from the books, with bright yellow and then bold black letters saying Loch Lomond. That's a cool little neat trivia thing that I had no idea. Didn't find that anywhere on the internet. It's the kind of thing you can only find at your local library or secondhand bookstore, or I think I got this on Amazon. Anyway, wherever you get your books and wherever you get them, it's still worthwhile flicking through a proper book. You learn things you don't necessarily learn from browsing the web. So yeah, thank you very much again, Charles MacLean, for that one. This is available. We did get a full allotment of 2 cases, so there should be 5. I think, if I'm doing the math right, available for you guys at home. $191.22 is the price. $191.22. And just to explain what I mean by that, we have the Outturn preview tasting, and we allot approximately half of the bottles to that, and then keep some of them for the online release on the Friday, so that members that couldn't make it to the tasting can still have a chance to purchase. So if you're, a Victoria-based member, and you happen to be in Barbados right now, but you like the sound of this whiskey, you can go to strathliquor.com/SMWS, purchase this whiskey, and pick it up when you get home. Isn't that lovely? Also, if you are not an SMWS member and you're thinking of joining, you could also join by buying this whiskey. If you've never been a member before, that's how it works. That's how you join now. Any bottle over $180, if you've never been a member before, pick it up and you can become a member for the first year. It's kind of a try before you buy, and then you pay the subscription fee every year after that. So yeah, if you're basically anywhere where you can get Canada Post, we can get this whiskey to you, and yeah, you can get your first year membership with this whiskey or any whiskey that's over $180. All you need to do is fill out the little form when you purchase the whiskey at strathliquor.com/SMWS. We make it nice and easy for you. All right, next whiskey up, the 4th whiskey of the August Outturn is Hazelnut Chocolate Dundee Cake. The nose opened with lemon bonbons and soon deepened to rich marmalade and vanilla custard tart. There was a tantalizing chocolate fondant note lurking in the background, asking us to take a bite. A varied assortment of dried fruits, currant, sultanas, orange peel, and papaya, had just been mixed into some Dundee cake batter with some flaked almonds. Once baked, it was slathered in butter, still warm from the oven. To taste, the orange peel was up front, with a marvellously complex bittersweet oiliness, followed by an almond oil and poached pears. In time, the nuttiness turned into a hazelnut chocolate spread, perhaps even on the cake. A feel-good dram of epic proportions. Looking forward to this. This is only the third time we've ever had a whiskey from this distillery here in the SMWS Canada. And I'm guessing that we may have got them closer together than it might appear, because this is an old label, of course. So this has probably been sitting in Canada for a little while, waiting to be released, just biding its time, crouching and just ready to pounce. And it has now pounced officially. This is 51.16 is the cask number. It is aged for 16 years. An outturn of 166 bottles coming out at 56.6% ABV from a first fill bourbon hogshead. Sorry, bourbon barrel, my mistake. I don't know why I said hogshead. It quite clearly says barrel on the book, and probably says barrel on here as well. Yes, it does. First fill barrel, ex-bourbon. It is from a very interesting region, for it is not a single malt Scotch whiskey. This is whiskey with an E. This is a single malt Irish whiskey from Northern Ireland. Yes, it is indeed. And that narrows it down somewhat, doesn't it? So, knowing that this was bottled a couple of years ago now, it was distilled in 2002, and it's a single malt from Northern Ireland. I wonder if it's a Bushmills. So, let's open this one up. Absolutely adored the last couple of Bushmills that we've had. I've actually got one of them behind me still. Admittedly, a little pricier than equivalently aged Scotch whiskies, but you've got to take into account the fact that it had to come from Ireland first, then Scotland. It's got an extra set of duties and everything included on that, so they're not trying to gouge you here. It is harder to source for the SMWS. It's more expensive to source for the SMWS, so yes, it is a little pricier, but that's simply, the case. There's no real way around that, I'm afraid. Bushmills is going to cost a pretty penny, and it's going to cost a little bit extra if it's going to be coming via Scotland. All right. Oh, yes. That's interesting. So, as you probably know, I like most things, especially in the world of whiskey, but most flavours in food and drink I enjoy. There's very few things I don't enjoy. But there are some things which I have always been under the impression that don't really go together. And two of those things are milk chocolate specifically, not dark chocolate, and lemon. I've always thought that that's an odd pairing. But I get both quite strongly in this whiskey, and I love it. So maybe I've grown as a person. Maybe I need to try again. Maybe I need to get some lemon curd and some Nutella and make a lemon curd Nutella sandwich, like a PB&J, but lemon curd and Nutella. I'm tempted to try that after tasting this whiskey, because that is a gorgeous combination that I honestly would not have expected at all. Yeah, so candied orange peel, absolutely on the nose now. I think there's a dried papaya. Yeah, absolutely dried papaya. And that's one of those things when you get the fancy mixed fruit and nuts. One of my favorite bar snacks. If you get the fancy one, it comes with the big orange cubes. And as a kid, I was always amazed. I was like, what is this? What is this thing that's in this dried fruit and nuts? Is there dried bananas in there? And then turns out papaya. Dried papaya is gorgeous. All right. Getting the nuttiness. Definitely getting the nuttiness. Slivered. I know I always get it wrong, and now I can't remember which one's correct. I always misread it. It's either silvered almonds or slivered almonds. Slivered would make more sense, seeing as it's thinly sliced. I'm going to go with slivered. That's my final answer. I'm locking in slivered. Slivered almonds. Yeah, silvered wouldn't make any sense. Watch that be correct now. If it's not silvered, if it's not slivered, if it is silvered, please let me know in the comments section that I am a fool who has a very loose command of the English language. Okay, the lemon has subsided and has turned more to a candy apple. It's like a chocolate and then caramel apple with almonds on it. The kind of thing, it reminds me, the only time I ever have a candy apple these days is when I'm waiting to get on a ferry at Sawasan. If I'm coming back to Victoria from the mainland, for some reason there's a little chocolatier place right in the ferry terminal, and they sell these chocolate-covered candy apples. And I don't know when it started, but it's now a tradition that every time I'm sat waiting in a car, I'll get one of those, and I'll get it sliced up, and we'll just sit in the car, me and Kristen, eat a candy apple. That is very good. It is. All right. So, this special single cask, very limited. And actually, yeah, we only have one case for this right now. Northern Irish single malt from Bushmills is already available. Hopefully, it might have already sold out by now. It's hard to say with these releases. I'm often shocked now. I for a while thought I had a grasp on what was going to be popular and what was not going to be popular, and apparently it's a little bit random. Taste is a very personal thing. But I think this is going to go down well at the tasting, and I think on paper there's going to be people who are very interested, so it might have already sold out by now. But if it's not, it's available at strathliquor.com/SMWS. But first, trivia. You might have noticed Charles MacLean's book here, Wikipedia, has the tagline, Compendium of Scotch Whisky. So how did I get trivia for this one? Well, turns out it's not the only Charles MacLean book I've got, of course not. Got World Whisky as well. The Nation by Nation Guide to the Best Distillery Secrets. Over 650 whiskies. By Charles MacLean. Also, fantastic book. And this is where I got my information from Bushmills. So, Bushmills is a really, really interesting distillery. It's a really interesting brand. Because it's the only one I can think of, apart from, I guess theoretically Compass Box now, which bottles a blend and a single malt under the same name. Right? Bushmills, or actually, I should also mention the distillery is called Old Bushmills. I keep referring to it as Bushmills. That's actually the brand of whiskey. The distillery is Old Bushmills, like the inverse of Pulteney and Old Pulteney. They only make single malt. They make triple distilled single malt whiskey. That's the only thing they actually make. So how do they get a blended whiskey? Well, they actually buy grain whiskey in, and they buy it specifically from Middleton. And that is a fact that I learned from this book. Charles MacLean, you did it again. All right. So, it's available right now, $292.96. Get it while you can. And the fifth whiskey in today's lineup is Confessions of a Sherry Cask. Sticky treacle and molasses oozed over Christmas pudding packed with prunes, dates, and figs before a generous soaking of navy rum was lit by a single match. An abundance of cinnamon, nuts, and dark chocolate caramelized with muscovado sugar, while on the palate came star anise, cloves, and brandy butter. Rich flavors of coffee, licorice, and plum chutney then merged with cigar boxes and burnt cereals. With water, heavy fruitcake was served with rosemary-dressed roast lamb and a side of singed blackcurrants, maple syrup, and porridge. The palate had now expanded into almond oil and Brazil nut butter, whilst thick custard arrived with rye bread, burnt ham, and grilled black pudding. At 10 years of age, we combined selected casks from the same distillery We then returned the single malt into a variety of different casks to develop further. This is one of those casks. We've heard that before, haven't we? We've heard that almost exactly that same blurb before, but this one is not a Highland Park, I can guarantee you that. Alright. A single malt from the SMWS that is not technically a single cask, but it has all come from a single cask, but the contents of that single cask has come from multiple casks. With me still? Good. This is from the Speyside region. It is 24.154, an outturn of 313 bottles that came from a first fill Oloroso hogshead, whose contents came from a mix of Oloroso butts. So there's several Oloroso butts, blended them together, and then put some of that into a first fill Oloroso hogshead, and that's what we got here. The earliest of those Oloroso butts, perhaps all of them, but at least the earliest, was distilled on 13th of October 2008, and after 12 years this came out at 63.3 ABV. Yeah. I get to try this whiskey. How delightful. This is one of those fun things where I absolutely don't need to be marketing this whiskey. We didn't need to put this in a tasting. I don't need to be opening a bottle and making a video about it. All I needed to do was put it on the internet and it would go in an instant. So I'm very grateful for the fact that I make the decisions to still get to try this myself. I mean, I think our members would be very upset if we did that. I always try, whenever possible, to make sure that members have a chance to try each new whiskey. Oh yes, this is very sherry. This sits right smack in the middle of the deep, rich and dry fruits flavour profile. This is exactly the nose you would expect from that profile. Absolutely Christmas pudding. Mmm. 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 It's like a rum and raisin ice cream affogato. You know where you pour coffee over ice cream? Is that a proper affogato? I can't remember if a real one is hot. One of them is either hot chocolate or coffee, and then there's like the alternative version where you use the other one. Whichever version is the coffee one. It's like pouring espresso over rum and raisin ice cream. Mmm. Mmm. Oh yeah. The sherry cask is giving up all of its secrets in this one. A spirit which is particularly well suited to sherry casks. The official bottlings almost always showcase very sort of heavy sherry influence. Mmm. Mmm. Yeah. Beautiful, big, rich fruit and nuts. I would say, more so than any other SMWS release I've had from this distillery, this is in line with the distillery characteristics. I'm wondering if maybe there's something about making a vatting of the casks helps with that. Maybe it's, rounds off the rough edges and gives you a clearer idea of the distillery character. I'm not sure of what's going on there, but this tastes so much more like Distillery 24 than any other Distillery 24 I've had from the SMWS in the past. And it's bloomin' good. Mmm. And it's funny because it's not actually a distillery that I'm usually a massive, massive fan of. And truth be told, it's not my favourite from this Outturn so far either. It's not my style of whiskey, but I can appreciate quality when it's there. And in terms of quality, this is absolutely there. Yeah. Would I personally buy this? I mean, maybe Maybe I would actually, which I wouldn't often say about this distillery personally. Yeah, I think I probably would buy this if given, the right opportunity and financial wherewithal. But I know that there are many, many members out there who are going to be very excited at the chance to try and get one of these. So I'm not going to get one of these because I know that other people will appreciate it more than I will, because this has a huge fan following. Distillery 24 is, of course, Macallan. Yeah. And trivia from the book. Alan, and I don't know how to pronounce the surname, I think it's Shiach or Shiach, maybe. Anyway, whoever he was, Alan was the chairman of Macallan from 1979 to 1996. But he was also a very renowned and highly regarded Hollywood scriptwriter, and has worked on films including Castaway and Don't Look Now. Yeah. There's a tenuous link. There's something you probably weren't expecting to learn. I certainly wasn't. So, this is not available right now at strathliquor.com. We have a couple of bottles still available via lottery. So if you are interested in picking up one of the remaining bottles of this 12-year-old, not single cask, but from a single cask strength, that's probably the important bit, small batch, limited edition Macallan, go to strathliquor.com/SMWS right now and purchase the $0 ticket, and that will give you an entry into the draw to be able to purchase one of these. Yeah. You must be an existing SMWS member to enter the draw. If you're a prospective member, feel free to join by buying another bottle, and then your membership is instant. So if you, in the same purchase, buy a bottle to become a member and also get a $0 ticket to enter the draw for this, I will honour that. That's completely fine. That's completely fair. All members are eligible for the draw, but we do encourage people, because all four stores will be having their own draw. We do encourage you only enter one draw out of fairness. It's really hard to police that. We do try when we pull winners. We make sure that they're not trying to cheat the system. But please be fair about it. If you're going to enter the draw in one store, don't enter the draw in another store as well. That's just poor taste. And if I find out that any of you are doing that, I will think lesser of you. You've been told. Yeah. So yeah. Please, please, please get yourself a ticket. See if you can win the draw to be able to purchase one of these. And the price is $245.13. Yeah, that is a particularly good Macallan. I feel like I don't get to say that very often these days. Anyway, all that aside, one of my favourite stories is coming up. Last, but by no means least, for this outturn, it's time for a bit of peat. Whiskey number 6 today is The Glow of a Beach Bonfire. Dry roasted peanuts and char-grilled pineapple joined seaweed and iodine before sweet notes of vanilla slices and heather arrived. An underlying dark fruitiness expanded on the palate into prune juice and bramble jam that perfectly blended with licorice and lavender. Appropriate amounts of ash and char then led us to barbecues with scorched scallops and banana. Water released more oily maritime character, with lobster and seaweed on a seafood platter, and charred lemons, crushed raspberries brought a fruity sweetness with vanilla and marshmallows in a pina colada. Delightfully oily textures coated the mouth as ash-infused orange syrup comforted the soul-like eating chewy flapjacks in the warming glow of a beach bonfire. Oh, so many of my favourite things were talked about in that tasting note there. Chewy flapjacks, oh. I've said this before on these videos, but in case you haven't seen them, an English or British, Scottish, anywhere in the United Kingdom probably, flapjack is very different to an American flapjack. It's not a pancake by any stretch of the imagination. It is the wonderful sort of glorious coming together of butter, sugar, and oats in pressed, cooked, sort of baked and pressed into a bar form, often with melted chocolate on top, but that's optional. Well, it's not optional in my household, but it's optional in general, apparently. Yeah, one of my favourite British desserts. Absolutely love it. Also, in there, another favourite dessert of mine, vanilla slice. Something that I don't think I've come across in North America, but again, very classic. The kind of thing that you might get at the cafe after you've done your shopping. What's that funny Scottish word for getting groceries, doing your shopping? Getting the messages. Yeah. I love that one. It's such a strange meaning. Like, I'm going out to get the messages. You mean grocery shopping? It's weird. Anyway, I love it. Quirky. Yeah, it's the kind of like 4 o'clock on a Friday afternoon kind of a treat. It's sort of cold, thick custard between two quite thin layers of flaky pastry with a layer of icing on top. Absolutely delicious. Usually with a drizzle of chocolate as well. It's got to be a drizzle. Yeah. Dry roast peanuts. We have those over here, I'm fairly sure. The sort of almost barbecue sort of flavoured peanuts. Yeah. Just so many wonderful things. Scallops. Love a scallop. Love a banana. I am very excited by this write-up. Okay. I'm also excited for a little bit of peat, to be honest. It's been the only peated whiskey of this release. So this is Distillery 53.359. It was distilled on the 16th of November 2010 in Islay. It was then matured in a refill ex-bourbon hogshead for 9 years. They got 259 bottles, coming out at 59.4% ABV. Ooh, I don't remember seeing that, but toffee. This is very toffee on the nose. It feels like I need one of those little metal hammers to get through it. Thornton's Special Toffee. That's a British reference for you. I sadly discovered when I went back last month, the other month, to the UK, that Thornton's isn't a thing anymore. Or rather, the shops aren't. You can get them in supermarkets now. But there used to be specific stores in when you went to shopping centres or malls, as you guys call them, little Thornton shops where you get all the different Thornton's chocolates and toffees. Thornton's Special Toffee is a delightful treat. Oh, blimey. It doesn't taste like Thornton's Special Toffee. It tastes like I just licked a fishing boat that's on fire. But somehow it didn't hurt. Wow. That is aggressively maritime. Duke Snyder is going to love this whiskey. If he doesn't buy one, or at least attempt to buy one, I will be very shocked. Blimey. Yeah. I usually get heavy, like, smoked bacon and pineapple notes. I'm not really getting either, but it's still somehow quintessentially itself. Like, this is a 53. This is a Kalila. And it tastes like a Kalila, but it doesn't have the standard Kalila points that I usually look for, which I find really intriguing. It's the essence of Kalila. Cool. So, thanks to Charles MacLean for this trivia. Kalila is one of many Waterloo Street-style distilleries, designed by Chief Engineer Dr. Charlie Potts. This efficient and ergonomic layout for 6 stills is also used at Balmenach, Clynelish, Craigellachie, Glendoolan, Glenord, Glentochers, Linkwood, Manachmore, and Tir Ninich. And yeah, if you pay close attention to that list, it's almost entirely Diageo-owned distilleries. The odd ones out there would be Balmenach, which is Inverhouse, and there was another one. What else is... Glentochers is Pernod Ricard. There we go. I knew there was two. Yeah, really, really interesting list of distilleries. They're actually all pretty damn good distilleries, I have to say. So I don't know how much of that is due to the Waterloo Street style, which, by the way, was named after the street that the engineering department that created it was based, which is kind of cool. Yeah, apparently very, very efficient. They use gravity to need less sort of valves and things. And in the case of Kalila, very picturesque because it's long sort of glass walls as well. And in Kalila's case, overlooks the Pass the Jura there, which is kind of cool. I'd love to visit Kalila. Haven't been. Absolute beautiful whiskey they make there. Despite being probably the least picturesque of the distilleries on Islay, so I'm told, one of the best whiskies. That's certainly one of the most consistent whiskies. All right. Well, if you feel like you need an infusion of peach from the SMWS, this is pretty much your only choice right now because we don't have a single other peated SMWS whiskey in inventory. So the remaining bottles for this one are available right now at strathliquor.com/SMWS for $210.35. Get it while you can. This has been an excellent set of 6 whiskies. Thank you for joining me here on YouTube. For those of you who joined me in person, thank you very much. Look forward to seeing some of you again at next month's Outturn preview tasting, which I can tell you when it is, because I've just actually, earlier today, booked the room for it. I'm just going to open up the calendar so I actually get the date correct, because it's not next month, it's actually this month. So the first Friday of September happens to be Friday the 2nd, which means we're going to do a Sunday tasting next month. We're still only doing one because it's the tail end of summer. We probably don't have enough interest to fill 2 tastings yet. So instead of Thursday the 1st, we're actually going to do Sunday the 28th of August. So less than a month away, guys. Please do buy your tickets. They are available right now as well at strathliquor.com/SMWS. Members are welcome. You can sign up for the tasting if you're not a member as well. And yeah. This has been a wonderful bit of flavour escapism. Thanks as always to Kelly and Rob. Keep bringing the fantastic whiskies and, well, I'll keep enjoying them and spreading the word. Saint-Gervais, good night. Stay safe, stay well. I say good night. It's night when I'm filming this. It's 10 o'clock in the morning when I'm releasing it. So whatever time of day it is, have a good time of that day. Catch you later.
Old Bateman kept a cheap shop and his daughter Peggy Sue. She cleaned the fish and took the orders, she chopped the tatties too. And the friar there was Billy Smith, he sweated and he sang as the orders sizzled in the oil and bubbled in the pan. Old Bateman took the money and his daughter Peggy Sue. She'd look up from her labours and she'd smile along the queue. Oh, and was it Bateman's prices, or was it Billy's song, or was it Peggy's smile that kept the queue so long? But it was 1 in a million, 1 in a million, that Chippy was 1 in a million. It wasn't Bateman's prices, nor a wasn't Billy's song, but it was Peggy Bateman that kept the queue so long. She was shapely as a mermaid, and her lips were red and wet, her eyes as bright as herrings flashing in the net. And to carry home a portion and unwrap its fishy charms was to dream of nights of passion in lovely Peggy's arms. Or when Billy'd sing Delilah, he'd sing, oh, what a night. And every song that Billy sang had Peggy in its sights, 'cause she was one in a million. She was one in a million. That girl was one in a million. Now Billy's loved Peggy with a love both shining true, since first old Bateman took him on the day that he left school. And he tells her how he loves her in every song he sings, but as the batter bubbles, oh, he never says a thing. But every week a fiver into a drawer he drops, every week for 8 long years now. Then it's off to the jeweller's shop. Give me that ring there in the window on the purple velvet stand, with diamonds and with sapphires, the one that costs $2,000. It was one in a million, one in a million. That ring was one in a million. After closing time that evening, he walks her down beside the quay. Oh, and as the sun was sinking, says, Peggy, marry me. And he pulls it from his pocket. He says, I bought this ring for you. She said, Billy, this is sudden. Oh, I never had a clue. She said, Billy, I hardly know you, so stop before you start. Never fool around with plastic in matters of the heart. You try to win me with this thing here, you probably won in some arcade. She tore it from his fingers, she flung it in the waves. It was one in a million, one in a million. His love for her was one in a million. Billy turned away then, she took him by the arm. She said, Billy, love, I'm sorry, I never meant no harm. Oh, you're kindly and you're comforting, and I love it when you sing. But in all the years I've known you, you never said a thing. But I've got a dream that's solid gold, none of your gilded tin. £5 a week on the lottery, one day soon I'll win. Oh, and I'll be shot of this old town and greasy fish and chips. She kissed him once and walked away. His tears were on her lips. Dream on, Peggy Bateman, dream on, Peggy Sue. of sunsets and of sports cars as you smile along the queue. Dream days to months and months to years in reveries of luck, but never for dreaming did her numbers once come up. So as she was cleaning fish one day, with a slit from tail to jaw, something slithered through her fingers and fell onto the floor. She took it over to the sink then, and she washed the shining thing. Bright diamonds and bright sapphires set in a golden ring. It was one in a million, one in a million. The chances were one in a million. Oh, Billy, love, your ring's come back, and underneath this light I can see it's made of pure as gold. The stones are shining bright. Oh, and Billy stood beside her with a smile like the sun. He put it on a finger, he said, Peggy Sue, you've won. Sell the ring and taste the freedom you dreamt of all these years. He kissed her then, and as they kissed, they could taste each other's tears. Billy, go back to your frying and sing me Love is Blue. You're kindly and you're comforting, I'd rather stay with you. It was one in a million, one in a million. When the chips were down, it was one in a million.